I'm a senior multimedia journalist working with a New Vision newspaper, and I've been working there reporting on the environment for the past 20 years.
My name is Mary Akurut. I have a doctorate in engineering science, focusing on water resources and climate change. My research interests are in water quality, climate change around Lake Victoria, and I'm currently working with the Uganda Electricity Generation Company as the manager dam safety and water resources.
The scientists believe that their role is to work in the lab, do their research somewhere in the research office, and they have no business with the media. And yet, the media can add value to their work by reporting it and making sure that it reaches so many people. And this has been quite a challenge. The Nile well is bringing these two parties together to be able to interact, to be able to chase the mistrust that has been existing between the two parties.
Nile well is a unique platform. It helps to interlink the journalists, the scientists, students and other researchers. It gives you a platform to also link to your own work, and also it gives you updates on the current and existing information that you have on the Nile basin.
You see, in many cases, the journalists, the first time, they may not get it right. But through continuous interaction with the scientists, they will be able to learn a lot more, and they'll be able to learn correctly. I'm a living example of that. The way I was reporting 20 years ago is not the way I was reporting 10 years ago. And it is different from the way I was reporting 5 years ago.
It's important that we join this Nile well platform because it helps us to link between scientists and journalists and provides information to the public in a way that is really understood and information that is scientifically proven. So this is a good link that you need to join. So go Nile well.
So what are you waiting for? Create an account today by logging on to www.nile.org. Hi, my name is Alice from Infona. Welcome to Nile well, the first online platform that connects environment researchers and journalists.
My name is Gerald Tenywa. I'm a senior multimedia journalist working with a New Vision newspaper, and I've been working there reporting on the environment for the past 20 years.
My name is Mary Akurut. I have a doctorate in engineering science, focusing on water resources and climate change. My research interests are in water quality, climate change around Lake Victoria, and I'm currently working with the Uganda Electricity Generation Company as the manager dam safety and water resources.
The scientists believe that their role is to work in the lab, do their research somewhere in the research office, and they have no business with the media. And yet, the media can add value to their work by reporting it and making sure that it reaches so many people. And this has been quite a challenge. The Nile well is bringing these two parties together to be able to interact, to be able to chase the mistrust that has been existing between the two parties.
Nile well is a unique platform. It helps to interlink the journalists, the scientists, students and other researchers. It gives you a platform to also link to your own work, and also it gives you updates on the current and existing information that you have on the Nile basin.
You see, in many cases, the journalists, the first time, they may not get it right. But through continuous interaction with the scientists, they will be able to learn a lot more, and they'll be able to learn correctly. I'm a living example of that. The way I was reporting 20 years ago is not the way I was reporting 10 years ago, and it is different from the way I was reporting 5 years ago.
It's important that we join this NIWELL platform because it helps us to link between scientists and journalists and provides information to the public in a way that is really understood and information that is scientifically proven. So this is a good link that you need to join. So go NIWELL.
So what are you waiting for? Create an account today by logging on to www.niwell.org. Hi, my name is Alice from Infonat. Welcome to NIWELL, the first online platform that connects environment researchers and journalists.
My name is Gerald Tenywa. I'm a senior multimedia journalist working with a New Vision newspaper, and I've been working there reporting on the environment for the past 20 years.
My name is Mary Akurut. I have a doctorate in engineering science, focusing on water resources and climate change. My research interests are in water quality, climate change around Lake Victoria, and I'm currently working with the Uganda Electricity Generation Company as the manager dam safety and water resources.
The scientists believe that their role is to work in the lab, do their research somewhere in a research office, and they have no business with the media. And yet, the media can add value to their work by reporting it and making sure that it reaches so many people. And this has been quite a challenge. The NIWELL is bringing these two parties together to be able to interact, to be able to chase the mistrust that has been existing between the two parties.
NIWELL is a unique platform. It helps to interlink the journalists, the scientists, students and other researchers. It gives you a platform to also link to your own work, and also it gives you updates on the current and existing information that you have on the Nile Basin.
You see, in many cases, the journalists, the first time, they may not get it right. But through continuous interaction with the scientists, they'll be able to learn a lot more, and they'll be able to learn correctly. I'm a living example of that. The way I was reporting 20 years ago is not the way I was reporting 10 years ago, and it is different from the way I was reporting 5 years ago.
It's important that we join this NIWELL platform because it helps us to link between scientists and journalists and provides information to the public in a way that is really understood and information that is scientifically proven. So this is a good link that you need to join. So go NIWELL.
So what are you waiting for? Create an account today by logging on to www.niwell.org.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Good morning, wherever you are. And if it is morning or afternoon or evening, we want to really appreciate you taking off the time to join us this Wednesday. And of course, we have lots of stuff coming in. But as you know, this is the NIWELL Science Wednesday, where we usually host a scientist to brief us on what they are doing. It could be about their research. You know, as journalists or as science lovers, we are able to pick one or two things that we can go and share or write about as journalists, but also as activists, try to make some positive noise around it. So today we are privileged to have Francis Wajo Wanikeni. who is a PhD registered student. Apparently, he's doing his research. That's at the University of Juba, Institute of Security, Peace and Development. And of course, currently he's doing a thesis, and the thesis is about the challenges of transboundary water management of the Nile River and related implications for peace and security in the region. He's a researcher, and his areas include peace, conflict, security, water management issues, social and community problems. And of course, he also researches on religious-related conflicts, and among others. Currently, Francis is working with the Ministry of Water Resources and Irrigation in the Republic of South Sudan as the Director of Policy and Regulation. And of course, with us today, we also have a journalist who is called Dennis Morris, who is also an educator from South Sudan. And Dennis graduated from the Catholic University of South Sudan with a bachelor's degree in education. And thereafter, he received an advanced journalism training from the South Sudan Media Forum. He's currently a journalist, and he has been a journalist for almost 9 years, writing about science and using print, radio, and online media to report on various topics, including water management, pollution, climate change, and of course, environment. Apparently, he has also contributed to media houses or media stations like Summer FM radio. Then also he has been able to write for Juba Monitor and City Review, plus also Pulitzer Center. Dennis and Wani, it's a good thing to have you on this space. And ladies and gentlemen, I want to say that this is a team that is part of a cohort, the first cohort we had, that was about, a co-production. And when I say co-production, it is something at Infona that we started up where we are trying to see how scientists can engage journalists, and also how journalists can engage scientists on telling stories. And of course, Dennis was part of our first cohort, and of course, Wani joined later. And they have been able to put up something really interesting that's about the story that I've been working on. And we would love to have them share with us what are those things they really picked out that they would love us to have, to listen to. And also as journalists, what are those things that we could follow up? And thereafter, we also have a session where we will be asking questions. So as we listen in, we need to be attentive, because after that, we have a question and answer session, whereby, of course, the winners shall be announced, and we shall be also announcing the prizes that we have for them. Apparently, maybe before I dive in what they are going to be talking about, or what we are going to be talking about, first and foremost, like how I say, this is a team from South Sudan, and of course, they will be taking us through what they've been working on. But maybe to give you a hint on it, it's about the water problem that South Sudan is facing. And as we all know, is that climate change is also contributing to this. But without wasting time, allow me to also remind you that we are also live. That's on YouTube, and also we are live on other platforms like Twitter. Please try to send the links to your colleagues so that they can be part of this. A good welcome to all of you who have just joined us. And right now, I would love to give the platform to Francis. So Francis, whom I actually said was a researcher. So Francis, if you're ready, you could please go ahead and introduce yourself, and then also tell us what you've been working on, and what are you speaking about today. Otherwise, thank you so much, and enjoy the presentation. Francis? Francis, we can't hear you. I don't know if you can try to work on the sound. Okay, as Francis tries to work on the sound, I want to remind us that we have a platform called NileWell. And NileWell is a platform that we usually want to interest scientists and journalists, especially those who are into science reporting, to join, so that they can be able to have resources, about science, and also they are able to meet like-minded persons. So Francis, maybe if you can try again and try to speak and see if we can get you. Okay, as we wait for Francis to iron out a few issues with his sound, I will maybe ask Dennis to come in and throw more light on how he was able to work with Francis as a journalist, but also give us some of those key stories that they have worked on, or those communication pieces that they have worked on. Dennis Morris, please, if you can go ahead and present, that would be awesome. Thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Andrew, and the rest of the participants or followers. My name is Dennis Morris, and as Andrew said, I am a journalist and also educator in South Sudan. I've been working as a journalist for over 9 years, and this recent project got me last year in July. Andrew, do you have my presentation?
I will ask someone to share it. I will ask someone to share it so that help you share it. Help you share it.
Yes, let that person, let Primrose share with you so that you can share with me.
Can you see your presentation? Can you see your presentation?
Yes, I can see the presentation. Thank you very much. Okay, yeah, thank you very much. I can see the presentation very well, and I'm sure everyone is also speaking very well. And briefly, what I'm going to talk about, if you go to the next slide. Next. Yes, Andrew. Andrew, are you getting me? Next.
Yes, I'm getting you. Yes, I'm telling.
Yes.
I'm trying to request the one operating to do that. Yeah.
Okay. My presentation is going to focus on 4 areas, and let me hope I'm going to be within the time because I was given 15 minutes. And this presentation is supposed to be after the one for Francis, because there are certain things I did not capture here, in which he captured the other side, because we divided the role. Because if I continue here, but anyway, he will come in and talk about other issues. So I'm going to talk about this whole program when it started earlier last year, in July last year. And I'll talk about the experience I gained during the whole program for these 9 months. It's nearly 1 year now. About challenge the whole program. And I also talk about the issue of water in South Sudan, then the issues that we find during the crop production. Those are the Yes, are you getting clear?
Yes, we are getting you, Dennis. Yes.
Okay, those are the areas I'm going to talk about. 5 areas. Francis will come also and add more on some of the areas. So next slide. Yeah, it was last year in July when I received a note from a note of invitation from InfoNile to attend the Nile Well Scientist Co-Production Fellowship Program in Uganda. The training, which lasted for 1 week in Entebbe. Then the training was full of learning new ideas, skills, knowledge sharing, and different perspective of the stories. The fellowship was full of sharing and getting people visiting new places. What happened? We were in Entebbe. Those who didn't get a chance to come there. So that's what exactly happened. Next. Yeah. The background of the whole program, after the 1 week fellowship in Ghana, there was continuous mentorship and regular meeting production of the story for a 9-month ended. So the 9-month continuous mentorship was for me very well because I was able to advance my understanding in some of the areas I didn't pick well during the trip in Uganda. Some other thing was getting the data visualization. During the fellowship in Uganda, I did not pick well. But during the continuous mentorship program, I was able to understand it, and I'm now let's say I'm now a mentor of that visualization. And it helped me a lot during this 9-month period of mentorship. I was able to advance my skills and understanding. It was 9 months which helped me to link up with the scientists who helped me with information. As Andrew said earlier on, I did not meet my scientists before we went to Kampala. We went to Uganda. So I met my scientists after we came back. We put more effort. InfoNile could help me, and some of the colleagues here in South Sudan, they could help me to link up with scientists. It was really very difficult for me to link up to get a scientist who could help me with information. Getting a scientist who work in the area of water was not really easy. So until finally I met him. Then my experience or the experience I gained during the whole program, during the fellowship program, I've gained skills in working with the different people from different sort of professions. Like I'm now working with Francis, who is from different profession. So previously we had been working only with some journalists, those whom I work with them at the station, and I've never worked hand in hand with the scientists, but now it has helped me a lot to find in depth. Sometimes Francis could tell me, no, you know what, this information is not okay, at least we should add this. So he will talk about this one later on. So there are stories, the way I wrote my story previously was totally different. Now, when I sent to him, he told me, you know what, this is not right. I should add this one. This content is missing. Why don't I talk about this? Why don't I add this one? Including Gerard also helped me a lot in order to sharpen my story, fix exactly what it means to talk about the issues that are affecting the issues people are affecting related to water. It helps me produce in-depth story on the contentious issues of water in South Sudan. If not, this program will have not been well. So, hey, you're rushing. You're rushing. Yeah. Let's go to the challenge. The next slide. No, there's a slide of challenge. So, no, it's before that. Oh, I think we don't have that one. There are a lot of challenges that I faced during this program, especially the most challenging part that I faced was finding the scientists who could help me come out with this story. It was very difficult, as I said earlier on. It was totally very difficult to get a scientist. I moved to many of the ministry. I moved to almost 3 ministries: Ministry of Environment, Ministry of Water, Ministry of Fisheries. I could not find. And then finally, somebody told me about Francis, that yeah, he's a researcher. So I tried to link up with him. He wasn't in the country. He was abroad until he came back, and I tried to talk to him. Then he submitted his application. Then Infonail accepted him. And then another challenge I faced was the issue of legal water framework. So there were no legal papers or legal water framework that could help me, that I can get, or I can quote in my story. If you see my story, some of you read my story, you will not see something okay, by the country. Sometimes some of the documentation government, I don't know, the Ministry of Water Resources, they are not publishing more stories, they are not publishing more documents or more findings. I don't know what they do. So it was very difficult for me to get some of the information online. It was very difficult for me to get the legal work. I couldn't get it. And when I moved to scientists, as Francis managed to help some of the documents, but I can't find them online. I was able to find them just in hard copy, and at least it pushed me out. Then another challenge also I faced was the issue of meeting the government official for INTI was not easy. Somebody can schedule a meeting. It took me almost 4 to 5 months even to meet one person. And even still in some of these offices, there are a lot of bureaucracy in the offices. So as such, it delayed my production. Some communities sometimes were very reluctant to talk to me, especially when we talk about the issue of water. You know, people in South Sudan, most communities in South Sudan are really suffering. When you come out with the issues that they are facing, that you want them to talk about the issues they are facing, sometimes they don't want to talk. They don't want to talk to you, to the journalists. But at least I got few who managed to talk to me. But I really want to talk to more communities who are suffering the impact of access of clean water. But all in all, I just got few who managed to talk to me. So the next slide is about the water issues in South Sudan. As you have seen, according to UNICEF has been publishing a lot of stories about water in South Sudan. According to UNICEF, they said it is 59% of the population in South Sudan lack access to safe drinking water. And we did not just stop with this publication from UNICEF. We also went ahead in the beginning and look at different publications from USA, from other bodies, FAO. So, of course, people in South Sudan, or population in South Sudan, are suffering. They're really suffering, and the 10% that is having access to sanitation, or access to clean water, are just those who are in the many towns, like in urban towns. But those in rural areas, sometimes they don't have access to clean water. I'll talk about this, and Wajo will talk about this also. It is in his presentation. You will see majority of South Sudanese does not have access to clean and safe water. The sanitation is a problem. So next. As you can see from that picture there, if you can see that woman behind there, she's fetching underground water. She dug the water, she dug the well, and that place is in a place called Yei. So she can get that water only during wet season, but when it comes to dry season, she can't get it. Now look at this little girl who is getting water behind there. It's the running, it is surface water. Now you see the quality of water she's getting. And if you see her like that, you will think like she's getting water just she want to go and play with it. It wasn't for play. She took that water and she went in the bed. Okay. Because according to the mother that I spoke to, she told us that they spend nearly 1 week. The water tank has not come. They don't have water. There's no rain. So they managed to just send this little girl to go and get water on the street. In order when it comes, they will boil it. After boiling, they will try to stir it so it will be clean. The dirty one will remain down. They will be able to use the upper one. Next slide. If you see on background, the reason behind this suffering of why 59% is 59% of people in South Sudan does not have access to water, clean and safe water. The reason here, if you see on background, the picture on background, most of the water supply in South Sudan are water tank drivers. And if you see those drivers, most of them are foreigners from Ethiopia and from Uganda. And if you see that water tank, there are certain roads it cannot cross. So that means there are people in the deep rural side where roads are not connected, so they may not get the clean water. Okay, see that is a challenge now. So most communities are using the running surface water. That's the reason as why you see like the water is totally dirty. The rural communities are using underground water because the clean water cannot reach out to them. The vehicle to move from Juba out to deep end of the village is not, the road is not accessible, the areas are not accessible because of the road condition. Then again, there's limited water supply by the government. The water that is currently being supplied by the government, they're just supplying within the town. And it's not connected to the household. It's to be, they always, somebody takes a question? Okay. It's not connected to a household. Some of these water tank drivers, they go and they check from the government, they go and they sell it outside. When they sell it outside, they sell it at high price. Next slide. Okay. So another thing behind this is that sometimes you see these water tank drivers, sometimes they have their own issues. Sometimes they can go for protest. When they go for protest, the whole town, the whole village will run out of water that day. Okay, that's one thing happen. Secondly is you will see sometimes when there's high cost of petrol, the spare parts, sometimes they tend to raise the prices of water per liter or per drum. Here they sell it in a drum. The water tank drivers, they sell it in a drum. Sometimes when there's high economic changes, sometimes they also tend to raise the what prices. The households are not connected. When these men who drive this vehicle, when they go for protest, either today is Sunday, some of them are Muslim, others are Christian. When they go for their religious practice, sometimes you don't see the water is not there for the community. So these are some of the reasons as why you see most people in South Sudan are suffering to have access to clean water. Next. Yeah, issues found during the co-production. There are a lot of issues are found during the co-production. Water sector in South Sudan is highly fragmented at both national and sub-national level, with many institutions like clear roles and responsibility. What I discover is that there are people in the government, institution, or NGOs. Sometimes you will see this is the Ministry of Water, but you ask yourself, what exactly are they doing in the Ministry of Water, Resources and Irrigation? You'll see like they're doing nothing. Whether they don't know the clear role, or they don't have funding, they don't have money. We fail to understand what exactly is happening. Then when we talk about the national and sub-national, you know, South Sudan is divided into region, from region to state to county. You will see like national, like here in Juba, you will see only in Juba where people can have access to good, clean water. But if you go deep down to other states in South Sudan, you'll see even the water tank driver, water tank vehicle, you can't see it. Now you ask yourself, how are people surviving in those areas? Sometimes you see some borehole, there are people drilling their own borehole. So the borehole are very far from people. And then another thing also I found is that the oil extraction in central floodplain of Jonglei Lake State and the Upper Nile has contributed to surface and the groundwater quality. That's one of the bigger problems. There are areas in South Sudan that are oil extraction. So these areas, the water tend to be more dirty in those areas because of the extraction of the oil. The worst part of it is there's place in Upper Nile. Recently, I visited. So in Upper Nile, you'll see like the oil is being drilled at top of the hill, and the worst part of it, the oil and the remaining part of it, extractive part of it, is just pouring into water. At the end of the day, you will see people and the animal and everything are drinking the same water. So what is the future of people after all this? So that means there's a problem here in South Sudan in regard to water issues. Families we talk to lack access to drinking water and they rely on limited water tank supplies. There are some people who cannot drill their own water for themselves. Sometimes there are some people who does not have access to, let me say, there are people who only focus that they will get water today from the water tank suppliers. But when these water tank suppliers are not there, that means they will not get water. They will not get water. But there are people also we spoke to that are able to get their own water. They are able to get to dig their own well. At least this one they can subsidize, or that they can substitute. When the water tank is there, good enough. If the water tank is not there, they will be able to benefit from the well or the borehole. But there are places within the town where the borehole cannot be drilled. Okay, next. Okay, this one is the effort from the government now. At least the government has wake up and they started doing something for the people. So if you see that graph shows the total number of liter per cubic that is being supplied every day. If you see in March, this one was a supply of water last year. If you calculate all this, you will see like in a year, South Sudan managed to supply water to the people. But yet, according to the scientists or according to the water expert, they said the water that's being supplied in South Sudan currently or in Juba alone is not enough for the population in Juba. Because the total number of people are more compared to the total number of water that's being supplied per day. But however, this is the supply from the government. But now there are also other small companies and some NGOs like UNICEF, GIZ, who are also supplying water. But if you see, still people in South Sudan lack enough water, according to some experts who spoke to us. But at least this is the effort that's being done by the government next. And I didn't mention this water supply was provided by JICA, that's by the help of Japanese government to the people of South Sudan. Yeah, the community effort is that some communities are drilling their own well in order to get water. Others sometimes boil this other dirty water and treat it by using water guard in order to also get them drink at least clean water. Those are some of the efforts that they're doing and to get clean water in South Sudan. But in general, look, also climate change. I think this is not, this one is, Francis will talk about the issue of climate change is one of the reasons also as why people in South Sudan are suffering the lack of water. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dennis, for such a wonderful presentation. I hope we have picked one or two things from what Dennis has presented, and as we can see, water scarcity in South Sudan is really a problem. And maybe we will have a discussion, but I'm requesting that if at all you have any questions, you could prepare them and then post them in the chat, and then we will follow up and try to, task whoever the question is meant for to respond to it. Right now, as I promised while we were beginning, that we would also have a scientist or a researcher. And this time around, we want to give the floor to Francis Ken, who is also from South Sudan. So Francis, in case you're able to speak, please, you can go ahead. I just want to test your audio to see if it is able to come through. Maybe if you could speak a few words, and then we could ascertain whether your audio is good. Thank you.
Hello.
Excellent. Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear. You could go ahead, Francis. And
yes, I'm very sorry because the link was sent late, and yesterday I suggested that let the link be sent early so that we test in my computer. Yeah. So that we're able to join now. And unfortunately, I did not even hear what has been said, and if can be repeated or a question, and then I'll be able now to listen to answer.
Francis, what Dennis was highlighting, or what Dennis was presenting, was about the story he did regarding water scarcity in South Sudan, and what are those measures that the government is trying to do. But also, I believe he engaged you while writing the story. And basically, we would love to know from you, what are some of those elements that you think should have gotten more maybe light when it comes to water issues in South Sudan. And maybe you can go ahead and tell us about your experience with, working with Dennis on a story that is later published. So basically what we want to get is your experience working with a journalist, and what are some of those areas you think we can look at, or as journalists highlight, when it comes to wash issues in South Sudan. And of course, these are matters that cut across the Nile State. So what happens in South Sudan could be happening in Uganda. So that's what basically we want you to highlight on. But I can see your presentation has been shared. So maybe if you can use your presentation to share, that will be wonderful.
Okay. Thank you very much. The volume is very low. I hope everybody is listening to what I'm saying.
Yes, we can hear you very loud and clear, Francis.
Thank you very much. Once again, I'm so sorry because of the system. Yes, the issues of water supply or water management in South Sudan is very critical. The reason is why. Oh, you want me to present from here?
Yes, Francis, if you could use your presentation, it would really be helpful.
Okay, yeah, okay. And then, well, let's go. The South Sudanese journalists and scientists started collaborating, working together this year over this contested issue of water in South Sudan. We start the work plan of the co-production, and it has helped us to the desirable goal of final production. It is true that majority of South Sudanese are suffering and are lacking, this is a grammatical error, access to clean and safe water. It is my first time actually to work with a journalist. I've never been interviewed really, and I've never published any story on a newspaper or even speaking on a radio. Though through this scientists joined the program late, though I joined this program late, when an orientation program had already taken place, but we build better for professional and personal relationship with each other, which made it more easier and enjoyable for us to work together. And I carried my research to find out why South Sudanese are lacking access to clean water and what is being done about it by the authorities and the communities to get access to clean drinking water. Let's go to the next. Okay, now the scope. Access to the clean water in South Sudan remains a significant challenge to the communities. Some families travel a long distance of over 5 to 10 kilometers away or even more. We found, and most people are talking, that most women are being raped by some people who are not known or people who are known, depending on the area where they are. And this has been a story that has been widely spoken and people talk about it. So many families lack access to drinking water and rely on limited water tankers supplies that are being done in the major cities, particularly in Juba. Some areas rely heavily on groundwater, but groundwater has a main challenge. The main drinking water sources in the South Sudan is the groundwater, especially in the rural areas. But it carries some risks due to the nature of the formation of the rock, and in some areas due to some pollutions. Let's move to the next. Now, the status of water in South Sudan. Most of the waters in South Sudan are polluted by various extensive issues, particularly petroleum in the petroleum mining areas, and then some minor industries. And then we also have chemicals from agricultural, the mining agriculture and the mining activities taking place in various parts of South Sudan. Then we also have environmental pollution from the waste, liquid waste, and this liquid waste, and even this hard waste from the waste, particularly from hotels or even from households or from hospitals. And the vehicles, mechanical, these works like the generators. Now, all of these contribute to the pollution of water, particularly in the cities, particularly in Juba and other cities. And also, let us not forget, most of the cities in South Sudan are all along the River Nile, right from Nimule to Juba, to Bor, to Malakal, and down, and even Wau. All of them are just along the river. So anything that happens within the cities affects the water immediately. So we have these economic situations. Some communities are not able to get for themselves clean water due to these economic situations in the country. We also have the climate change, which is manifested in flood. And once flooding happens, it brings all these impurities wherever they come from, and then it polluted the water. And let us not forget, most of the waters of South Sudan are transboundary, particularly from Uganda and other countries beyond. They pass in South Sudan, also from Central Africa, from Sudan, and from Ethiopia. So it is most likely that pollution, if it happens upstream, definitely affect us. So that is part of the pollution that happens within South Sudan. Let us move to the next. The methodology we use in this brief research, we first of all make the work plan with the journalists, and then we map the stakeholders, the people to be interviewed, the individuals. we map them. And then after making them, we design the questionnaires that we ask them, or ask each and every one of them that we have identified, with the hope that will give us important information concerning water pollution. We make calls either by phone or by WhatsApp or whatever means we can use. And then also now we conduct the interviews. We ask questions regarding pollution, whether on ground, on surface. And then we also have the observation, particularly in the cities like Juba, and Malakal, where I went, and were able to to observe the areas of pollution, how pollution happens, and all this one. So it is out of this that we are now able to write the story with the journalists together, and then try to cross-check whether the story from the journalist and from the researcher at least agrees to a certain area. I mean, to agree with the facts. Now let us move to the next. Now these are the findings. One of the issues that affect us, we don't have the legal framework for water management and even for water pollution. We don't have, we have the policy is weak, it needs to be reviewed, but the legal framework is completely absent. So this, and one of the issues that we found, there is no reporting structure for the whole Nile Basin. You know, the Nile Basin, as we all know, maybe some of you may know, some of you may not know, it doesn't have a unified, structure for monitoring water resource management. Recently, they introduced what they call hydromet system for monitoring the Nile Basin, but they have not introduced yet, this parameter of quality, for water quality. So it remains an issue that we have. Now, the effort by the government and the partners such as UNICEF, GIZ, USA, JICA, provide clean water, but to a limited amount, not covering actually the whole of the country. Now, communities are more resilient to the situation. They tend to dig their own, sometimes others, they dig their own, others they are helped by NGOs, but it is not comprehensive. It doesn't cover every part of the country. No, the country has no water quality management system. So it will become like a more difficult really to have the assurance of this water quality. And then the groundwater, according to the questions we asked, the groundwater pollution is not really also that evident, but what I was told is that due to rock formation, the water is a bit hard, maybe due to some particles or due to some minerals that makes it a bit not suitable for drinking. And if it is to be drunk, for people to drink, it needs a much kind of treatment. So but the most pollution that is affecting is the surface ground from the river and the streams, with this the reasons that with some of the issues that we talked about. Now for the Nile Basin, as we say, we don't have a legal framework for the whole Nile Basin, because the countries, each country has its own policy, and there is also this conflict between downstream and upstream. So up to now, even institutional arrangement is not yet there. The Nile Basin Initiative is only a transitional organization, so it has no legal framework for managing common issues in the Nile, like water quality. So let's move to the next. Next slide, please. Okay, now lessons we learned. Now here we find out how the message can be amplified to reach out to majority of the audience through the radio. Now this is what we think is more something that can be promoted. The message can reach to communities through the radio. Or we can also discover more issues, e.g. the issue of water in South Sudan. This one is also a very important area where we can work on it and discover more issues. And then now we also interview tips which can help us, to get more information from different stakeholders about the water issues. And then working together, brings more and more benefits in producing and communicating stories in many areas of research and communication of any finding. But I also want to say that I'm very fortunate. I'm very happy to work with Dennis. We are able now to be, though in the beginning it was very hard because of different areas of work, but now we are coming closer, and to my best, we are going to make a very good team in the next phase of our research. Now, okay, let's move to the next. Okay, the challenges. Information, of course, is difficult. There have been a lot of information read from other stakeholders, from maybe the UN agencies and all this one. But we feel that those reports, and some of them are not validated by the ministry. So despite the fact that they are okay, but sometimes we feel skeptical because it has never been violated by the government. Now, constant engagement by Ministry of Water, government, which could not allow us sometimes to more because they have got a lot of activities. So getting a person for interview sometimes become very difficult. Now, linking up with the journalists was also very difficult because we have different focus in our areas. So, but we could really make it. I think that was also one of the challenges. Now, most of the trainings I attended were for the journalists, particularly for me, because I joined late, and most of the training that I attended were more of journalistic, not of research. So that also causes a bit of challenge to me in this particular area. Now, the journalists started the program in the beginning, but the scientists joined later, and so coming together to the same level was a bit difficult. And the other thing is that there is no research done so far in South Sudan on water quality. So it become more, what you hear is only stories, maybe stories from the radio or stories from the development partners or from the non-governmental organizations. So those ones, despite the fact that they might be right, but we also need a real research. Even in the University of Juba, I think there are no research done on water quality. So it become more difficult to get really a credible information about the subject. So let us move to the next. Now, the effort from the government to provide water to the population, the government is discussing more policies. As we said, I'm also holding the Department of Policy. So we're working very hard to come out with the policy review, and then from the policy review, go to the legal framework, the water law, or sometimes what they call it, the Water Act. So once that Water Act is out, then the institutional arrangements for water management, for water quality control, and for regulation can be established. And that will be the time things will be okay. So the government is working on that. Recently, the government has signed the water agreement with some partners in Juba who will be able to provide clean drinking water. These arrangements are also going on, and they have also brought projects from the World Bank. So they're working on these water issues. I think maybe in a short time they will be able to. JICA is also trying its best now, to build these treatment plants and then water up intake for the city of Juba, but still the city is expanding very rapidly. So the water covers only a small portion, but they are trying, maybe in the long run, they will be able to cover the whole of Juba. Let's go to the next. Yeah, that is all that I will say. And thank you very much. Should there be any question or a comment, then I'll be here to answer. Thank you very much for your listening.
Thank you so much, Francis, and we appreciate the good work you are doing in South Sudan. And we believe that, just like how Diana Chivuka has just, echoed this wonderful message that we always at Infonet want to, put out there, that when journalists and researchers come together and do these stories are more richer, and they also help policymakers to come up with informed decisions that later, are able to translate into policies that able to make the communities better. But as we have been discussing, maybe, and this is a question to you, Francis, and maybe Dennis also, you could chip in. But in the meantime, as I ask, maybe if at all you have also any suggestion or any question regarding the presentations, please, you can just drop them into the chat, and then we can always, give it to whoever is supposed to answer it. So maybe, Francis, if I may ask, so in your presentation, you said that not really much has been done when it, in regards to research when it comes to water quality. But do you think if more stories about water quality can keep coming through, especially in a joint partnership of a journalist and a scientist, do you think this kind of movement can cause some bit of change when it comes at least to the research world, when we see more stories, saying that their water quality is bad and maybe we need research on this? Do you think that, such calls through the media can be able to push scientists or even the government to put more monies in research regarding to this water quality aspect?
Yes, thank you very much. If I get you correct, yeah, that's right. There is some people say when you talk and the talking can provoke action. What is actually missing is there is no publication about these issues of water in a very systematic manner. So if we really publicize, the concern, the research and the journalists publish this, it can wake up people. And yes, I'm 100% convinced that the government can wake up, because talking, and when people talk, particularly, we have a journalist is working together with the research comes out with the findings, and then the journalist publicize it through the radio or through the newspaper. Then there'll be no question, because if it is the journalist speaking, people always say a journalist speaks their own stories. They have their own agenda. They wanted people to know something, where it may be correct or it may not be correct. But now, if it is supported with science, then definitely the government will wake up and be able to do something. I assure you that, because I'm also working in the government. So I assure you that if we talk, we do this thing and we talk, and especially with the support, the government will wake up and will be able to do something. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much. And maybe, Dennis, this is a question to you, since you wrote the story, but in case maybe Francis also feels he can come in to help, that would be nice. This one is coming from Upendo Richard and is asking, what is the total cubic meters of water that is required, and how much is produced by both government and stakeholders? That's I think in the entire country. Because from the story, I believe, Maurice, you highlight that approximately 10,800 liters are pumped per day. And maybe to just caution that, that's if the weather conditions are stable enough to enable this. So that means if the weather conditions are not stable enough, that means maybe the liters are less. But feel free, Dennis, to expand on that question, and maybe also Francis. But of course, as we go on, I would love to say that if at all you have any other question, please put it in the chat. Dennis, do you have any response for this particular question? Could you know how much we pump?
Yeah, thank you very much for this question. Let me start with the previous question you asked my colleague, that is Mr. Francis, about the co-production on water issues in South Sudan. Could it help bring change? Of course, what I want to tell you is that of late in South Sudan, the media has been playing a greater role in creating awareness, igniting issues, and working toward social changes in South Sudan. Both the social media and the other media houses like radio, newspaper, and TV in South Sudan. And again, the good thing again in South Sudan is that most of these government officials nowadays, they become closer to the journalists. They're no more closer. They love listening to the radio. As situation are changing, situation is changing in South Sudan. It's not of late. Before, it was very difficult even for a journalist to interview stakeholders. If you look at my story in critically, you will see I interview Minister of Water and the Resources, which used not to be there before. Okay, I talked to the Director General of Water Corporation, which used not to be there before. And when this InfoNile published this story, I shared with some of them. I just say, oh, thank you very much for publishing this story. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay. So it can help if we come together and produce more stories on issues that are affecting our community. I'm sure the changes can happen. Then, related to this, to the question, the recent question you have asked, I think you have heard from the scientist. He was talking about the parameter, hydrolometer, validation, water act, and all these are the terms they always use in the ministry. So according to the graph, I'm talking about what the government so far has published. The government gave me an information that roughly they're distributing 10,000, above 10,000 cubic meter. Okay, cubic per cubic. There is a liter. I don't know how much is could it be. How many could it be in terms of liters? Is it 15 liters? Is it 15,000 or what? Something like that, 15,000 meters. But I'm not sure. Maybe Francis will tell us how much water required per day. But according to the Ministry of, according to the South Sudan Urban Water Corporation, the water they're supplying per day is totally limited to what they're supposed to supply. That's why they came in and they want to add more water treatment centers in order to add more water. Because if they're supplying 15,000 or 10,000 liters cubic per day, that means it's still very small. So that means they have to supply more water per day or more water a month or per year. So according to the graph, if you look at my story, there's a visualization I put. So they say, the ministry themselves say that it is still very small compared to what they're supposed to provide to the people in South Sudan. Let me have, Francis, can you come in?
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dennis, for this input. But I have never interviewed the people the people of Urban Water, because our role in the ministry is to give a policy direction. But what I wanted to add is that it is not only the Urban Water Corporation that gives water to Juba. There are also other partners. And then within the Urban Water Corporation, South Sudan Water Urban Corporation, there is a Central Equatoria Urban Water Corporation as well, which also produces and supply water. This is within. And then we have GIZ. In the part of Gumbo, it also produces water for that part of Juba. And then we also have UNICEF in part of Lulugu. Some of our people may not know where Lulugu is, but you know where Lulugu is. They're also supplying water to that part of the city. And we also have Red Cross. So for us to come up with a complete amount of water supplying to Juba, we need to get information from those partners. Then we'll be able to give the picture. So I think that will be our second phase of our research. As we finish up this one, we can now move to the second, so that we question all this, including even the people who have their own water pumps within their compounds and so on. All those are necessary to get this information, so that we can give our audience a complete picture of amount of water being supplied to the city. Then we also have these hotels, those hotels in Juba. Some of them, they have their own wells within the hotel's premises. This one also supplies water to their guests, and it is also very important to get so that we have a complete picture of water. But I think the one you got might be true for the Urban Water Corporation, but it may not be complete for Jubaton because of the other issues. But since that one is the government, we can say that that is the amount, but we need to get also deeper so that they get actually the one from the other partners, because they're also supplying to the city. Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you so much,
Thank you very
Dennis
much.
and Francis.
Yeah, let me add something here, because we talk about the recommended quantity of water.
Yes,
Yeah,
though Dennis, you have lots of questions. I beg that we go to some other questions that people have for you, since you've a little bit touched on that. But maybe someone from Sudan is asking, and this is Samal, is asking whether you think initiatives with communities and youth students in Waterfield that's, working in the awareness capacity building, whether you think, having engagements between the communities and the youth, especially those who are studying water-related kind of subjects, whether you think it can be a way that it's, people can get to know more about, how to purify their water, maybe how to go about groundwater, and maybe also how to find better sources of water. And then maybe to add on also that Henry Owino is asking how many people are able to get water from these private sector or these organizations that are helping in the water supply. In total, how many people are they serving? And then maybe if we can end with a question from Richard. Oh, yeah, Richard. Let me take Richard's other question. So Richard is asking, if there is no research on the water quality, then how is it that you conclude that the groundwater is not safe? So how are you getting this, this fact that the groundwater is not safe? Yet you claim that there has not been any research regarding water quality. I think this goes to you, Dr. Francis.
All right, let me start here.
Yeah.
Let me start, and then I'll give it to Dr. Francis. First of all, the recommended consumption per person of water per day is that each person is supposed to get 130 liters per day. That it was a statement that given to me by the Water Corporation, that each person per day is supposed to get 130 liters per day. But here in South Sudan, the government said that they are providing only 60 liters per person per day. That's what they're giving. So he asked a question about how many people. Like in Juba General, there are over 500,000 people in South Sudan, in Juba alone. But now they are providing water to only 5,000 people. 500,000 people in Juba, but now they are providing water only for 5,000 people. So that means the gap is too big. So that's why the question of how can we work together with other students, other researchers, so that we get a better sources of water. So that's why he calling on the private sectors, the government, private sectors and NGOs to come up and support the government in bringing clean and safe water to the people. Now, that's why also, Francis, if you quote Francis earlier, you talk about that there are people like GIZ, UNICEF, they're also providing clean water to other people in other states. To be honestly, the government is not providing water to the people in the rural areas or other states apart from Juba. Majorly, Francis will talk about the government is focusing only in Juba because of the high population and the diplomats are in Juba, and let me say the entire government is in Juba. So the government is focusing more in Juba, but the state government are doing less related to providing water to the people in South Sudan. Yeah, what we need to do in regard to the question how to find a better source of water, the issue is that we need to engage more in how do you call it, awareness. There are some NGOs that have wash projects or wash program in South Sudan. So these NGOs are supporting a lot because some of them give water, some of them give the water guard, water treatment medicine. I don't know, we call it medicine or drug. Some of them give it to the community in order to filter out the dirty water they are taking. Some will talk about how do we get, since there are no research in South Sudan, how do we identify ourselves? How do we know that the underground water are dirty? First of all, is a visually like this. If you see this water with your eyes, you will know this water is dirty. First of all, this water is dirty. In real sense, water is supposed to be colorless. But now when you say water is red, do you see that water is clean? That's one justification you can still put. Again, there are some, like what Francis said, there are people who have written more about the research, who have written more about water. But the research I've done is not validated by the ministry. You yourself, you can check it now online. You will not see some of this research being published, validated by the ministry. Universities is doing less in order to publish some of these stories on the water. So back to you, Andrew.
Yes, as we conclude on this question and answer session, maybe Dr. Francis, you can tell us how do you come up with the conclusion that the groundwater is affected, apart from the observation that basically Maurice has told us? How are you able to come up with this conclusion?
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Andrew, yeah, thank you very much. Before I answer you, let me add something more to the awareness. You know, all our policy documents talked about awareness, but the challenge comes from support. That's the challenge we have. But otherwise, all our policy documents talked about awareness to the communities and to all the stakeholders about the status and of water supply or even water management. So if there is any support, then as we have already started this and we have already agreed with the journalist Dennis, we're moving forward and hopefully people will hear about it and then we'll be able to do. Now, coming to the question of my conclusion, the conclusion I gave was an opinion from a water quality specialist. We have a laboratory, water quality laboratory in the Ministry of Water Resources and Irrigation, and we have 2 staff there who worked on this laboratory. So when I asked him about the quality of the water, underground water, he said the problem of underground water is that it is very hard because of rock formation and because of the presence of minerals. So for that matter, it is not really safe for drinking unless it needs a very hard, treatment so that it is suitable for human consumption. Now, the Ministry of Water Resources issues licenses for drilling. But because we don't have the law, they cannot verify whether the water that has been drilled by the companies is safe. It doesn't have this one. And even the laboratory that we were talking about does not have sufficient facilities or equipments or chemicals for testing the quality of water. So that conclusion comes from the staff of the laboratory of water quality laboratory in the Ministry of Water Resources and Irrigation.
Thank you so much, Francis. Thank you so much, Dennis. And of course, you have some flowers coming from Jane Macharia, who was also part of the first cohort of the co-production. Macharia, thank you so much for joining in and also participating. But at this time, I would love to go to another segment of this program. And of course, this is the time whereby we come in to check whether you have been paying attention, when it comes to things of, webinars. We want at least people to go with something, 1 or 2, and then, so that we know that there is some impact being done. So maybe at this time, allow me to invite Chris Cobell, who is also part of InfoNile, and Chris will be taking you through the trivia session. That's where we will be asking you a few questions from the presentations, and then we will determine who is the winner. And of course, stay locked up here to get more on how you're going to win, and basically what are those prizes that we have for you as InfoNile. Chris, please.
Yes.
Feel free to take over. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Andrew. Thank you everyone for taking part in this wonderful session. Thank you to our moderators. It has been a very engaging session so far. I think we should have more of these. It has been entertaining and very nice to be part of. So thank you so much, moderators. Thank you for your input. Yes, like Andrew has said, we're going to ask you just a few questions, 5 questions from the research and the paper that has been shared by our moderators, just to see who remembers or who was paying attention. And there will be a few prizes after to be given to whoever wins. So it's pretty exciting. Andrew, if you don't mind, you would help me in the chat to keep track of whoever answers first, to help us speed up the process. Okay. All right, guys. So just 5 questions, 3 from the research, then 2 general questions. So it should be easy. Write your response in the chat as the moment you feel you have the right answer. All right? Okay, everyone. So let's start. Number 1. The first question is, what is the main cause of groundwater pollution in South Sudan? Question 1. What is the main cause of water pollution in South Sudan? Okay, Emmanuel, today that's not right. Oil extraction, there we are. Caroline, you have that one. You have number 1. Thank you, Caroline, for that. All right. Number 2. According to UNICEF, what percentage of the population in South Sudan lacks access to safe drinking water? According to UNICEF, what percentage of the population in South Sudan? There we are. Guys are very fast. Again, I don't know. Wow. So, K. Emmanuel, I see you were the first here. Wow. Okay. Wow. Everyone got that one. That's fantastic. Okay, K. Emmanuel, number 2. Number 3. What are the different ways communities can ensure access to safe drinking water? I just want 3. What are the different ways communities can ensure access to safe drinking water? Just 3. What are the different ways communities can ensure access to safe drinking water? Just 3 answers, guys. Just 3 answers. Hey, Caroline, again, we're on fire today. All right, so Caroline has 2 of 3 questions. K. Emmanuel has 1. All right, well done, guys. Well done.
He has all of them correct.
Actually, yes?
I feel
K.
like
Emmanuel, no?
them. Yeah, K got all of them correct.
Yeah, K. Emmanuel, I also see so. Okay, so K. Emmanuel is correct, yes. So K. Emmanuel has 2, Caroline has 1. Okay, it keeps spinning in people's favor. Let's go. Number 4, question 4. Which agency has been instrumental in improving water access in South Sudan by funding a major water treatment plant in Juba? Hey, okay, guys, this is Caroline. Caroline, let me see. No, Caroline didn't get this one. Richard Upendo. Yeah, Richard Upendo. Richard Upendo got this one, number 4. So, K. Emmanuel 2, Caroline 1. Upendo Richard has 1 also. So final question. All right. Yeah. In which year? In which year did South Sudan, the world's youngest country, gain its independence from Sudan? In which year did South Sudan gain its independence from Sudan? Yeah. All right. So, Erisa, I see you got in. All right. So, I think going by today's answers, Erisa has 1, Caroline has 1, K. Emmanuel has 2. So I think we give it to K. Emmanuel. So guys, thank you so much for participating. K. Emmanuel, you're the winner. The team will contact you and give you the details. But thank you all so much for taking part. It's been very nice having you all. And back to Andrew.
Thank you so much, Chris, and congratulations, K. Emmanuel, and hard luck to those that tried but couldn't make it. Hope next time make it.
Yeah.
Yes,
It was really nice.
Yes. All right. I think as we come to the conclusion of this wonderful session, I would love to really thank you all. And just to remind you that as InfoNile, we have a platform that is basically bridging the gap between scientists and journalists. And that platform is called nilewell.org. So if you type in nilewell.org, you're able to create an account for free, okay? For free, it's for free. And all you have to do is just, tell us where you are affiliated, your names, what you're interested in. And then, of course, you'll have an account and you'll be able to tap into our funding, our grants, our opportunities that we usually post. We usually post them on NileWell before even post them on the website and also our socials. But also, this is the place where you can find like-minded people, scientists, journalists who can help you in one way or the other. For the journalists, this is where you can get people who can help you, give you information that you can use in your stories. But also for scientists, you don't have to sit with your research, in the shelves. You can easily check out a few journalists who can try to work a story out of your research. And there it has visibility and your works are able to be, out there and people are able to help themselves with them. Thank you so much. We have put the recording in the chat in case you missed the first parts of this session. Please, you can go and rewatch. And know that we usually have the Science Wednesday every last Wednesday of the month. And please always check out for when we are having the next one. I have been Nandra Ishuka, and from the team, that's from InfoNile and Water Journalists Africa. We would love to thank Dennis Morris, the journalist, and also Francis Ken, the researcher, for having taken part in this discussion, and for all of you for having, participated in this wonderful session. From us all, we want to say a goodbye and have a lovely one. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you so much for taking part. Till next time. All right, guys. Enjoy your day.
Bye.